Hello and a warm welcome to our live event today with myself, Ashok Gupta, where we're talking about the power of journaling to overcome anxiety and overwhelm. And the reason we've decided to do this event is because we've had a lot of people contact us and letting us know that actually life right now can be very challenging. And there's many different reasons behind that. It can be the current geopolitical situation. It can be the fact that the cost of living crisis is here. People are finding that challenging. Or it could be personal challenges that someone is going through. So in today's session, we're really going to understand how can we go beyond the traditional tools that people advise when you're feeling stressed, so the breathing, the meditation, the exercise, and actually look at something which often is underemphasized, the power of journaling. So today what we're going to do is actually look at journaling. What exactly is journaling? How does it work? What is the science behind it? And then what we're going to do at the end of today's session, we're going to do another live session on Zoom. We'll give you all the details of that. So you can join us live on Zoom and actually experience it for yourself. We'll go through a live journaling session together and you can see how effective it is to overcoming some of these deep emotions that we may be experiencing right now. So once again, welcome to all of you. We'd love for you to share this live stream on your social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Please do share this video far and wide so we can get this information out to so many people out there who are suffering from stress and anxiety. And a recent study showed that 40% of US adults are regularly experiencing not just mild anxiety, moderate to severe anxiety that's interfering with their ability to handle day-to-day events, day-to-day tasks. So this is a real serious issue in society, and screen time, social media, all of these things magnify the challenge that society is facing. So whatever tools we can give to people to support them, I think are very important. And the tools that we're going to share, there's a brand new platform called Just 10. You can go to the App Store or Play Store and download this app. And Just 10, it's free. And it's a way of actually engaging in 10-minute micro wellness sessions that can support you in your well-being. So it can reduce stress and anxiety, improve concentration and mood. And the 10 minutes are often exercise, breathing, meditation, and journaling, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So what's the science behind journaling and why is it so important? Well, often what happens is when we feel stressed and anxious, those thoughts and emotions, they run around in our heads. And we find it difficult to actually get perspective on those emotions. Yeah, this becomes kind of almost overwhelming. And that's where journaling actually comes into its own. And some recent studies I want to share with you. So a recent study looking at healing after an operation. Yeah, after a small biopsy, they compared people who journaled for 20 minutes on 3 consecutive days versus those who didn't. And the people who journaled nearly doubled how fast their wound healed. So 76% of those people, the wound healed within 11 days, but only 42% of people healed who didn't journal. So we're almost seeing a doubling of physical healing as a result of journaling. Now that is huge, just to really put that in context. And I think that shows us that actually journaling is working on many different factors. It can actually improve our physical ability to heal, which is very exciting. And a meta-analysis of 24,000 people found that actually, when we regularly journal, it can reduce stress and anxiety, reduce stress, increase resilience, and even improve our sleep. Because often we're not sleeping well because, once again, we've got these thoughts and worries running around in our minds, and we're not actually putting them down onto paper or externalizing it in some way. So for today's session, what you'll need is a pen and a piece of paper. So I advise you find one of those. And if you really want to journal using your laptop or phone, that's okay as well. I find that journaling with a pen and piece of paper is often more powerful, especially when we're looking at releasing emotions. But if you prefer to do it electronically, that's okay as well. Now, firstly, I think the most important aspect of journaling is what I call validation. Yeah. Now, what does that mean? It means that traditionally, when we're feeling anxious or overwhelmed, we can sometimes judge ourselves for that and think, what's wrong with me? Why aren't I strong enough to handle what life is throwing at me? And it's very important that we don't judge ourselves on that particular aspect, because actually it's very normal to experience anxiety. It's got almost epidemic levels in modern society because of the way that we are living life. And therefore, if we judge ourselves feeling anxious or overwhelmed, we double the problem, because now we are anxious about something and we're now anxious about feeling anxious, right? So it doubles the cycle. So it's very important we don't judge ourselves and just validate our experience. And what kinds of symptoms might we experience if there is anxiety and overwhelm? Well, often it can be, as I've mentioned, the rumination. This is one of the most dominant symptoms, is our mind can't seem to stop worrying about the things in our lives. We can see mentally replaying those situations. And that worry, believe it or not, that worry has a positive intention. Your mind is worrying because actually what it wants to do is it wants to find certainty and safety. Now, isn't that interesting? You might think, well, how can worry create safety and certainty? Well, what it's trying to do is warn you that there are threats and dangers so that you will do something about it. And you'll notice when we experience anxiety or lots of rumination, our mind is trying to find a solution to it. Yeah, so that's its positive intention. Then we might find those emotional symptoms where we might have fear or anger, restlessness, yeah, a sense of dread that often accompanies anxiety, overwhelm, or burnout. Then we might have those physical symptoms, so heart racing, there's tightness in the chest, shallow breathing, tiredness can be a real strong symptom of these types of worries. Yeah. And finally, an important one is difficulty focusing and concentrating. So we already know that too much screen time, too much time on social media can increase the levels of anxiety and depression and also decrease our focus and concentration. But now it becomes a double whammy, because the more anxious we get, that also compromises our ability to focus. And when the nervous system feels overloaded, it can actually move into what we call fight, flight, or freeze. So fight is this feeling of anger, irritability. Flight is this feeling of anxiety and worry, where you just want to run away from the whole situation. And sometimes we can even go into a state of freeze, where we find it difficult to just do something. It can lead to almost a feeling of paralysis or procrastination, where we want to do something, but we're paralyzed with fear or uncertainty. And this is another thing to watch out for in life as well. And even then, trying to distract ourselves with our phones and screens is a sign that we're avoiding the difficult emotion. So if we feel something uncomfortable and we reach for our phones, we need to watch out for that. Okay, so those are some of the symptoms that we may experience. And why does journaling help? Well, the point about journaling is when all of that thoughts and worries and rumination is running through our minds, it doesn't have anywhere to go. Yeah. And the reason your mind keeps replaying it is because it doesn't want you to forget about it. It wants you to do something about it, right? And it thinks that if it doesn't force you to think about it, you're going to forget and move on to other things, and the source of the danger has not been addressed. And therefore, just validating our experience, validating our emotions is an important part of journaling, and making sense of it and creating what we call a coherent narrative. So when the thoughts and worries are running around, do we notice how it doesn't really have a story? It's just worry, thoughts, emotion, negativity. It doesn't have a story that we can observe. And by writing it down, it creates a coherent narrative that then we can do something about. Also, when we worry, it takes up our mental bandwidth because our mind's trying to make sense of it. So we want to untangle these worries and anxieties. And we don't have to fix everything. The first part is simply that relief that I understand what the mind is carrying. Yeah, and this is the heart of micro wellness. We're not trying to solve everything. We're just trying to get back to a state of clarity, compassion, and have that reset for our minds. Yeah. And as we've said, many of us, when we feel anxious, might think, right, let me go and breathe. Fantastic. That is definitely a good starting point. Let me go and meditate. Brilliant. That's another really powerful thing. And sometimes those in and of themselves can be enough to calm the mind. But imagine your mind is like a field, all right? And in that field, there is a river running through that field. And that river represents those thought channels in the mind, those worries. So when it rains, the water comes down and it keeps going through that thought channel. Yeah? And that thought channel represents worry, anxiety, etc. And we want to reroute the river. Now, if we want to reroute that river, we need to loosen up the soil and create new neural pathways. What breathing and meditation and these brilliant exercises do, these micro wellness resets on Just 10 that we have, it reduces the amount of rain that's falling down onto the ground. And once that happens, it calms the mind down, but it hasn't got rid of that indentation in the field, that river flow. But what it does allow us to do is then have perspective and insights to say, how can I reroute that river into a different direction? All right, so that's what we're going to be doing in today's session. And I'm super excited that you're here with me. Once again, please do share this, please do like us on social media, subscribe, and of course, share this with others. Okay. So how do we journal? How do we create these kinds of resets that allow the mind to let go of this anxiety and rumination? Isn't that the kind of million-dollar question? And of course, it's different for each person. And here what I'm going to do is you're going to share a few tools and techniques that I found really useful when it comes to journaling and writing things down. I said at the end of today's session, we're actually going to be doing this together as well. All right. So I think this follows something that some of you may be aware of already, a tool that I use in the Meaning of Life experiment, which is a 30-day spiritual personal development program. And it's a tool called the New Groove Technique. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. You have a groove in your brain where all that water, that rainwater, is falling in the field and it's running down that little groove. And it's causing that rumination and anxiety. And the New Groove Technique is to create a new pathway for all that nervous energy, for all that worry, thoughts, and emotions. And in order to do that, the first point of call, and by the way, the New Groove Technique has 4 S's. So we're going through 4 S's that represents how we journal. The first S is stop and identify. Yeah. And part of that is the validation as well. So stop, identify, and validate. In fact, the 3 steps are really stop, validate, and identify. So the first is, when that rumination is occurring, we need to take a pause or a stop, because otherwise it's like a freight train, just moving forward and we can't get off that train. So we need to snap ourselves out of it and just go, whoa, okay, I'm ruminating, I'm worrying, I'm creating more anxiety for myself because I keep building this up. So the first is a little stop in the mind to create a window for you to reflect. And that validation is that next stage of actually, let me validate myself. It's okay to have an emotion. It doesn't make me weak or not resilient. It's part of the human experience. Right? And related to that validation is then the identification, because often we don't even know what we're experiencing. So it's identifying and labeling that emotion. So rather than I am anxious, which then labels you as a person, the whole entirety of you, you're more than just an emotion. Instead, it's labeling, I notice some anxiety within me. I notice the feeling of overwhelm. I notice I'm feeling a little burnt out. All right? So you're identifying the feeling. And we write this down. Okay, so we validate, it's okay for me to experience this. I notice some anxiety. And you might even notice how that feels. Yeah, so that's the first S, is stop, validate, and identify. The second S is what we call surrender and accept. Now, what this means is surrender means, how do I choose to, rather than hold on to this emotion and see it going round and around in my mind, how do I choose to let this go. Now, it's not about letting it go straight away, because that sounds like you're trying to escape from it. Yeah? And so the first part of surrendering and accepting is rewriting. So we write down how we're feeling. That is part of the surrender. You're surrendering it to your journal, your piece of paper. You might say, I notice this feeling of anxiety. Yeah. It's making me feel anxious. I'm feeling anxious about such and such person and the conversation that I had with them. Yeah. I feel that they don't respect my ideas, and I feel that they're judging me. And that really hurts. And I've noticed the hurt within me, right? So do you notice the surrender? The surrender is, rather than holding on, you're letting it go onto the piece of paper. The next stage of that surrender is understanding, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What are the beliefs that underlie it? Yeah, because every emotion is not just there for fun. It's actually trying to tell us something. It's trying to inform us. It has a positive intention. Yeah? Fear, anger, guilt, sadness. As uncomfortable as these emotions may be, and as much as we want to dissociate from them and not feel, they're here for an initial positive intention. But the issue is, when we don't feel them and we don't validate and observe their message, then they build up and build up and build up, because they think they're not getting through to us. So we ask, as part of that surrender and acceptance, what is it trying to tell me? What beliefs underlie this feeling of anxiety or overwhelm? So then you're writing how you're feeling, you're letting it go, free-flowing on the piece of paper or your notes on your app. And then you're asking, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Well, this anxious feeling is trying to tell me that perhaps I'm worrying too much about what other people think. Or it's making me realize that I have a belief that people are going to hurt me through their judgments, or that people don't like me, or people are thinking the worst of me, right? So you're writing down what the feeling's trying to tell you about you and what beliefs underlie it. So it's a free-flowing kind of journaling. The third S is what we call shift perspective. What this means is, now that I have validated the emotion, I've identified it, I've understood what its message is and what it's trying to tell me, and the beliefs that underlie it, that is the first part of the processing of that emotion, just understanding what it's trying to do. The second stage in shift perspective is, given all of that information, what do I choose now for me? Now, what this means is, what new way of looking at my emotions or this situation could support me? How could I look at it differently? So in our example, if we're feeling anxious or worried because we've had a difficult conversation with a friend and we're feeling judged or we're feeling put down by that person, we might say, as an example, it's okay that they said those things. That's their viewpoint. It doesn't mean it's true. So we are removing that element of us feeling judged by saying that's their viewpoint, rather than I'm a bad person because of what they said. Or another example of shifting that perspective, a new way of looking at it. Maybe they're just having a bad day, right? Maybe they've got their own stresses, their own pains, their own hurts. Yeah, often we're playing tag, you're it. Yeah, we have that hot potato and we're throwing it at somebody else because we don't want to hold on to the emotion. So we often project our own pain onto others, right? Or the other shift perspective can be, well, maybe there is some useful feedback here. Is there something that I can learn about myself? Do you see? So we've gone from the emotion running around in our heads to identifying, validating, understanding its message and the beliefs behind it, and now understanding, how do I choose to look at it differently? What new beliefs can I have? What can support me emotionally in this situation? So we're really getting into the depths of processing this emotion and choosing whether we choose to go along with that emotion or whether there's another way of looking at it. Perspective is everything. All right. Now, once we've done that, already just through that process of journaling, which just take a few minutes, and in Just 10, we have 10 minutes of journaling, and it's different each day. The final phase, the fourth S, is substitute, which means based on this new perspective I choose to have, how am I now going to navigate the anxiety, the overwhelm, whatever I'm experiencing, with new feelings and imaginations? So you might choose to say, I am more relaxed about that conversation. I've chosen to let it go. Or I've learnt from that experience and I forgive that person for what they said. Yeah? You're not forgiving them for their sake. You're forgiving them for your own sake. So once again, what substitute feeling, action, behavior do you choose to now offset the anxiety and rumination? Because, see, in a lot of modern personal development, there's a lot about the validation of those emotions, but I find there's not enough substitution. Because if the mind doesn't have a substitute, something new to focus on, it defaults back to the old riverbed. So if we are creating a new river channel in our minds, we want to create that groove with that positive emotion and the intensity of that emotion. That's neuroplasticity in action. And this is then this 4S process. Yeah, so let me go through that process again. And once again, as I said, live on Zoom, we're going to go through a personal journaling session. I hope you can join me for that, where we're going to take you through some of this experience of actually doing this live. And I hope you can join us for that. What I'm going to do, in fact, is I'm going to put the Zoom link. So if you didn't receive this already, I'm going to put the Zoom link into the comments, and then you just click on that Zoom link and you'll be able to join us live on Zoom, where we're going to go through the journaling process. And I hope you do join us for that. Yeah. So once again, a reminder of the 4S technique. That first S, which is stop. It's suddenly saying, I can choose to be overwhelmed through this rumination, or I can let it go and I can process it. So stop. We identify what the emotion is. What am I experiencing right now? And we validate. We validate ourselves. It's okay for me to have this emotion. That's the first S of stop. The second S is surrender and accept. And that surrendering is surrendering the emotion to your paper, which means, what is the emotion? What am I feeling? How does it feel? Where did it come from? Yeah. And what is it trying to tell me about me as a person? What are the underlying beliefs behind this anxiety, this fear, this worry? Yeah, so you're just getting it down, free-flowing writing. So you've identified and validated, you've understood why the emotion is here, what it's trying to tell you, and now the emotion can breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, finally, this person gets it. Then the third S, shift perspective. Based upon that, how do I now choose to feel about the situation that can bring some relief to that anxiety and that overwhelm? So the shift perspective is, what would support me right now? What's a different way of looking at it? How can I process this emotion? How can I make sense of it so it doesn't run around in my head again and again? And finally, the fourth S, substitute. Based upon that, we have some positive emotions, or rather positive affirmations with feeling and emotion. I am, I feel, I choose, which is now your definitive way of moving forward with a different groove in the brain. And the purpose of this 4S is you keep repeating it until the mind calms down out of that rumination. And often just a 5 or 10 minute journaling session, which is what we have live on Zoom 24 hours a day, just a 10-minute journaling session can really make all the difference. And it's free, it's easy, you don't need any equipment, you don't need anyone with you, you can just do this. And just to make it super simple for everyone, we think healing in community is so powerful. And therefore, Just 10 is a brand new platform which has live 10-minute micro wellness sessions to fit around your lifestyle. And the key thing is it's live on Zoom, so you don't feel like you're on your own, you're with others doing this together. And you can get this by downloading the free app. You can go to App Store or Play Store, type in Just 10, so JUST and the numerals 10. Download the free app. And on the hour, we have 10 minutes of exercise. 10 minutes past the hour, every day, every hour, we have breathing. 20 past the hour, we have meditation. And 10 to the hour, we have journaling. And all of these sessions are different every day. And it's all filmed beautifully outdoors in nature. And it's a great way of getting your micro wellness hit. Just pick one thing a day that you know can support your health and well-being. So I really hope that you've enjoyed today's session where we've been running through the science of journaling and how we can journal most effectively when dealing with difficult emotions around anxiety and overwhelm. Please do share it far and wide, share it with friends and family. And we'll see you on Just 10. So our next session is going to be live on Just 10. I've shared the link in the comments, so please do join us. And if you're not sure how to find it, go to just10live.com, and there you can also find access to the free app. So just10live.com, download the app, and within the app, you'll see a live event, which is just about to start, which is us going through the journaling together. So thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed this presentation, and we will see you next time on Just 10. Bye, everyone.